Welcome back. In this part of Unit 1, we're going to lay out the key concepts that form the backbone of our study of drug use and abuse. Before we can talk about the psychology, sociology, or criminal justice implications, we have to be clear about the language we use and the frameworks we work within. Let's begin with definitions. The term drug is broad, and its meaning depends on the context. In pharmacology, a drug is any chemical substance that affects the structure or function of the body or mind. In legal terms, the definition is shaped by laws and regulations. In the public mind, the word often carries moral or social judgment. In this course, we'll use the term in a behavioral and social science sense. A drug is a substance that, when taken into the body, alters mood, perception, cognition, or behavior. Drug use is simply the consumption of such a substance, regardless of whether it's legal or illegal, beneficial or harmful. Drug misuse occurs when a drug is taken for a purpose or in a manner not intended. For example, taking someone else's prescription pain medication or using a prescribed drug in greater quantities than directed. Drug abuse goes further, involving the repeated use of a substance in a way that leads to harmful consequences: physical, psychological, social, or legal. Dependence or addiction is the point at which the individual feels compelled to continue using the drug, often experiencing tolerance, needing more of the substance to achieve the same effect, and withdrawal symptoms if use stops. These concepts exist on a continuum of substance involvement, rather than as separate boxes. At one end is non-use, no experience with a given substance. Then comes experimental use, where someone tries a drug out of curiosity, often in a social setting. Next is social recreational use, where drug taking is integrated into social activities, but is not a central focus of life. Circumstantial situational use happens when drugs are used to cope with a specific situation. For instance, taking stimulants to stay awake while studying or drinking heavily after a breakup. Intensified use involves a steady, long-term pattern of drug taking, and compulsive use is where the person has lost control, centering life around obtaining and consuming the substance. One of the most important things to recognize is that the social meaning of drug use varies widely. Cultural norms, historical context, and political forces shape which drugs are celebrated, tolerated, or condemned. Alcohol, for example, is legal and socially acceptable in many countries, yet it is linked to massive health and social harm. Cannabis remains illegal at the federal level in the United States, but is legal for recreational use in several states. The history of drug policy reflects not only public health concerns, but also racial, economic, and political dynamics. Now let's turn to the factors influencing drug use initiation and escalation. The National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, has identified key risk factors for adolescent substance use. These include family history of alcohol or drug abuse, histories of antisocial behavior or criminality within the family, inconsistent parental supervision or clear approval of substance use, association with friends who use drugs, school failure in late elementary years, social alienation and rebellion, early aggressive or antisocial behavior. Protective factors work in the opposite direction: consistent parental monitoring, strong school engagement, pro-social peer groups, and opportunities for success all reduce risk. From a developmental perspective, adolescence is a particularly vulnerable period. Psychological theories point out that drug use during adolescence can disrupt the process of achieving psychological adulthood, a stage characterized by identity formation, emotional regulation, and the ability to delay gratification. Psychoanalytic theory suggests that unresolved conflicts from earlier stages of development can resurface, and drugs may serve as a way to avoid dealing with them. It's also important to note that not all drug use leads to dependence. Large numbers of people experiment or use recreationally without developing compulsive patterns. Likewise, many individuals who struggle with substance use in adolescence or early adulthood eventually age out of heavy use. Sociological research emphasizes that situational and transitional use, like drinking in college, is common and often temporary. The key is distinguishing these patterns from drug dependence, which is compulsive and dysfunctional. Now, let's connect these definitions and patterns to crime and violence. The relationship between drugs and crime is complex. There are three broad ways they can be linked. Psychopharmacological links, where the effects of the drug increase the likelihood of aggressive or criminal behavior, as with certain stimulants or high doses of alcohol. Economic compulsive links, where drug dependence leads individuals to commit crimes to get money for drugs. Systemic links, where the drug trade itself involves violence, corruption, and organized crime. Importantly, not all drug use is criminal, and not all criminal behavior is linked to drugs. But in the public imagination, these connections are often exaggerated or oversimplified. As you move forward in this course, part of your role will be to evaluate these claims critically. Finally, let's preview the theoretical frameworks we'll explore in the next part. These include operant conditioning, the role of reinforcement in sustaining drug use; classical conditioning, how cues become associated with drug effects; cognitive learning theory, how expectations and interpretations influence use; strain theory, how social inequality and blocked opportunities can lead to drug use as a form of retreat or rebellion; differential association, how close relationships shape behavior and initiation into use; labeling theory, how being defined as a drug user can become a self-fulfilling identity. These theories offer different lenses for understanding why people use drugs, why some stop, and why others spiral into dependency. In our next video, we'll go deeper into those theories and applications, connecting them to real-life scenarios and policy implications. You'll see how these ideas explain not just individual behavior, but also patterns across communities and societies.